Welcome, everybody. My name is Christine Perret. I am the Executive Director of the AR for Enterprise Alliance, and today is the May 19th webinar on the topic of choosing the best AR display device. I'll be managing today's webinar, and I want to welcome everyone who's participating. We're going to have a big group today and have some excellent experts and panelists. You'll be able to add questions into the GoToWebinar interface. So if you have any questions, thoughts that come up, don't hesitate to add those in there. We are recording today's webinar, so you'll be able to replay that in the future, share it with others, and generally review if needed. So with those conditions, I think I'll go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is part of a series, of course. The area has been conducting these since last fall, the fall of 2015. We try to do them regularly, and we want to focus on topics that are of interest to our audience. If you have topics that you'd like us to invite experts about in the future, you can complete a short survey after the webinar and make suggestions at that time. All of these webinars are archived on our YouTube channel in a playlist. Today's webinar is on the subject of choosing the best device to bring those augmented reality experiences to the user. It's sounds like a simple step, a step that everyone has to make, but it's not that easy. I'll be joined today by some experts who face this challenge on a regular basis and help others to navigate the complex questions. Today we'll have Rhonda Truitt from Huawei Technology, Matt Camerate of DACRI, Thomas Perper from Diota, and Jim Donnelly from 615 Technologies. These are going to be our experts, and we'll be hearing from each of them in a few minutes. I'd like to first remind you about our organization, the AR for Enterprise Alliance. Probably didn't know that today is our birthday. We launched exactly a year ago on May 19th. And so it's great to be here and sharing this day with other members and with our audience. So we're really very focused on accelerating augmented reality adoption in the enterprise. And our members feel that we could accelerate that by having a member-driven organization, has a global footprint, and at its heart, really, at its core, are the needs and the requirements of customers, especially large enterprise customers, and especially large enterprises in asset-intensive or also risk-averse industries where people are moving physical world objects and things around. So we know that in order to meet those requirements and to get technology into customers for infrastructure, we need the providers, and the providers of components and systems and services are highly diverse. And there's some, of course, that provide complete solutions, but many people are providing components. And this organization, the area, helps to coordinate some of that collaboration between the providers and the customers. We also recognize a third very important group, the non-commercial entities. These are research organizations, trade associations, universities that help to kind of stimulate our ecosystem by providing us with trained professionals, research, and other very important benefits. And by collaborating the customers, providers, and non-commercial entities, we believe we can focus and bring about the best customer outcomes. We do want to help our members, but also the entire planet to achieve better operational efficiencies, not just those that purchase and deploy augmented reality, but also companies that sell it. Because if you have a more productive conversation with the customer, a provider can more quickly develop and propose the solution that best meets the customer needs. We're still very focused on the introduction phase of augmented reality, but we will be here as an organization to support the widespread adoption of these systems and these technologies into enterprises worldwide. We have 33 members. We're very proud of the growth that we've seen. We have just had a great growth, especially in 2016, and we invite anyone who's interested in membership to contact us and find out how you can get involved with our programs, how you can benefit from our committees, and get better acquainted with our other members so you can demonstrate your leadership and be part of this important movement. Of course, you can find out more about us on our website. It's thearea.org. We do also have social media. We attend events. We'll be attending the Augmented World Expo in a couple of weeks. And so there's many ways to reach us and to get more information. So today is going to focus on this topic of the display and the device that you use to deliver augmented reality. I wanted to emphasize that sometimes the display, there's a lot of discussion about it, and it can attract people and to put the cart before the horse a little bit. We've been working as the area, and our webinars are a reflection of this, but also a lot of other things that we do to start more of a continuous process of defining needs, the use cases, the user requirements, and that leads to the display choice. Then once you know the limitations and the strengths of the technologies you're going to use for the display, you can better optimize your solutions and have a smoother integration process. Of course, this cycle is right here. It looks very linear, stair step, but it actually is a cycle that is continuously repeating itself as new business needs are identified. What I want to share with you is something I've observed as a participant of this industry for 10 years, that, we have a trend going on here. In the early days, there just weren't very many there weren't any real commercial solutions for AR displays. You had to kind of baling wire and duct tape things together and carry big backpacks. That became much less necessary as the years went by. And I think in 2014, there were still only a few options for hands-free displays, lots of other options. But last year in 2015 and again this year, we're seeing more and more options are coming out. And I think we're just going to reach an inflection point this year in which the kinds of displays that you can choose from, the different conditions in which those displays are effective, is going to rapidly expand. And this is something to be very aware of, and I think it's going to come up in our discussion today. But it's not going to be simple. It's actually going to get much more complicated before it gets easier again. So you'll hear people in their presentations today talk about the different options. A lot of times we talk about handheld versus hands-free devices. That's one way of categorizing the options. Another way of speaking and categorizing the options is around the level of immersive experience. So small displays that are up and out of the way of the direct view of the user might be called sometimes assisted reality, and they're not really expecting to track or register with the real world. And then at the very other extreme are the fully immersive, highly realistic, and a high degree of tracking and registration. There also are options, not uh, there are many options between mobile, very mobile, and some scenarios where you don't require mobility. And there you can exchange basically your mobility for high connectivity, power, and some other aspects. So we'll be hearing more about those. Today, there's still a lot of video see-through. That's tablets, smartphones. Not too many video see-through displays, although there are people who will make the case that you can use a smartphone in a Google Cardboard or like similar device for video see-through augmented reality. But I think the big opportunities that we're going to be hearing and seeing about in the next few years are around optical see-throughs, so it's fully transparent systems. There are many other factors that we need to take into account, such as what are the requirements for the user's field of view, and do these assets need to be in high resolution or perform as well outdoors as they do indoors? Uh, there are many, many use cases outdoors where illumination is an issue. And then there are more questions, many unanswered questions around the content management systems and how you author for different kinds of devices. So this is very, very complex. So those were just some of the remarks that I wanted to make to set the stage today for this webinar. And now I'd like to ask Rhonda Truitt to explain to us what you're doing and what you're finding, what your device is. What are your devices of choice?
Okay, thanks, Christine. So I'm Rhonda Truitt, and I work for Huawei, and we are a Fortune 500 telecommunications company. And if you would go to the next chart, please. And we're approaching our introduction of AR to our technicians or our customers' technicians in a phased approach. And this has a little bit to do with the devices we're rolling out to them in a phased approach too, and how they experience AR. So our end goal is that when we get to phase 4, we want to be using smart glasses and also tablets, but ideally we want our technicians, the customer's technicians, to be able to have a hands-free experience. So we want them to be able to be more efficient in their task by being able to view the task-based procedures actually on the equipment that they're working with as they do installation, maintenance, troubleshooting, upgrade tasks, that they can actually view the procedures right on the equipment with their hands free, and they can be step by step performing those tasks without having to go back and forth from a tablet or from a laptop like they would today, and then setting that down and then going back to their task. We believe this can save them a lot of time, and time equals money, so this will make them much more efficient. So in our phase 1, we did a proof of concept, and this was very limited. This was just to get started, to kind of just socialize the concept of augmented reality, both internally and externally, to our customers and to our internal funders, and get everybody introduced to the idea. And we only used a tablet at this phase to show our proof of concept in a lab, and then we had a demo video created, and we partnered with DACRI on this proof of concept. And then our phase two is where we're at now, and we're almost finished. And we've been working on 4, soon to be 5 prototypes, and we've been using the goal here was to use tablets and smartphones because we wanted to not invest right away in anything different than what our users already had. So these are prototypes that we will test with our customers, and they can actually perform the tasks on the equipment in their labs and in our lab. We're also creating videos of these to demonstrate internally to our leaders who may not want to necessarily go in the lab with us and try it out. And then phase 3 will immediately follow this phase, and we plan to do this in the fall. And we plan again to use mostly tablets, and we also are going to introduce some smart glasses during this phase. So in phase 2, we're working also with some area members. And in phase 4, this will be our general availability. So from all the lessons learned in the previous phases, this is where we intend to offer AR experiences as an enhancement to our traditional documentation to any of our customers who would like that experience. And we plan to use smart glasses and tablets. But primarily we would like for our users to use smart glasses. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide. So we have to justify to our customers the purchase and deployment of new hardware. Currently, most of our customer technicians do not use tablets in the field. But it's safe for us to assume that almost all of them do carry smartphones. So what we had hoped for phase 2 and phase 3 was that we could offer our AR experiences on both. While our ultimate goal is to use smart glasses, we can't expect our customers to invest in them, or I can't expect as the leader or driver of this project to have Huawei invest in them until we prove that the AR experiences will improve our customers' efficiency. So this is where having them partner in the testing during this prototype stage and in our next stage, which will be the pilot stage, will help to get that buy-in. And we also, before we make those investments, we want the smart glasses technology to be improved a little bit and the costs to go down a little bit. And so we figure waiting another 6 to 12 months, that might be the better time for us to make those investments and to ask our customers to make those investments. So currently in the phase we're in, we need to use our customers' existing devices. So our plans versus reality. So our plan was to 2 years ago, I was very naive, and I was like, believed everything I saw, a lot which was marketing, and I wanted to use smart glasses from day one, and I thought this would be greater efficiency and cost savings for our customers. I went out and purchased Google Glass, and I was just super excited, but then found that the battery life was way too short, and there were also some usability problems with different models, and I had to just accept that we needed to wait. And then recently I've just learned that even though I see a lot about using smartphones with AR in articles that I read and hear about that a lot, the feedback that I've gotten from several vendors is that the they aren't the best use for an AR experience, and AR experiences really aren't intended for smartphones. Um, and again, as planned, I thought this is the next best thing because everyone has one. We don't have to invest in anything. So Plan C is where we're at now, and the best option for us and our customers. We're currently designing and testing AR for our technicians with smartphones and tablets, and both Android and iOS. Um, this one of the things that lessons learned we found out during our testing experience is that even though these are well-known devices, it is a bit of a challenge for some organizations. So, actually downloading the experience and through iTunes on the iOS devices and things like that have been a little bit more challenging. So we're learning as we go there. So, we're continuing to learn and make decisions through our testing process, and I think in phase 3 we'll learn a lot more during our customer pilots, where we're asking our customers to use the AR experiences as part of their daily jobs for a longer period of time. We're working with AR partners, including some area members, to look at the challenges and opportunities that the wearable AR devices will have for our AR projects. And then we'll be able to move into our GA with a decision. So yeah, we have a lot to learn, and we're trying this all out.
Thank you, Rhonda. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Whoops. Okay, I think I'm going to go back up one. I'd now like to welcome Matt Camrate and invite you to Matt to tell us a little bit more about how you work with your customers and what your thoughts and experiences are in this question.
Great. Thanks so much, Christine, and thanks everyone for your time and attention today. So instead of focusing on kind of broad selection criteria, I want to focus today on kind of some uncommon topics or areas that are often overlooked. And obviously, as Christine mentioned, this is part of a larger evaluation process and selection process, that starts out with definition of use cases, identification of requirements for those use cases, going through a scorecard process, and then comparing devices based on those factors. But what I'm going to focus on today are a number of items that might go on that scorecard, but tend to get missed or overlooked, but which we've seen play a serious role in terms of rollout or adoption of these devices into different types of facilities and industries. So as you'll see here on this first slide, a couple of those are horsepower and the sensor package. So as anyone knows who's deployed or developed AR solutions in the past, it's a very unique combination of high horsepower activities from a computing perspective, from a bandwidth perspective, and the best part is that most of those operations tend to be running simultaneously. So you've got a lot of different sensors capturing and bringing data streams and things that need to be multiplexed and fused together for end user applications. You've got high impact computer vision applications, allowing the device to understand what it's seeing and map the real world, and then 3D rendering, which is already in the category of highest horsepower activities out there from a computing standpoint. And so as people are evaluating devices, it's important to consider that horsepower and the needs of all of the different operations or use cases that you're considering. In addition, content storage and bandwidth on the device itself. What sort of connectivity options does it have? Does it have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi? Does it have the ability to do wired data exchange in the case of high security applications or high security facilities? Really kind of meeting those full range of needs. Then there's the sensor package, and every device has a unique sensor package, but a few kind of interesting or unique sensors to keep an eye out for would be things like thermal sensing, depth sensing, or gesture support, where not every device is equipped with a broad range of sensors that enable a wide variety of use cases. Another big factor, and one that's often overlooked, is upgradability. Can you add sensors? Are there connectivity protocols that allow you to integrate existing, say, Bluetooth sensors or USB sensors that you've already deployed, so that it can really leverage from day one all the other parts of your ecosystem? If you can advance the slides. The next one is durability and lasting power, and this is something that, especially in the first generation of devices, it was something that we saw as tremendously lacking, and something that didn't suit the enterprise or especially the job site or the shop floor particularly well. So selecting a device that's got physical durability, that's going to stand up not only to your prototyping and development efforts when you're handing off the device between many people and showcasing what AR is capable of to a broad internal and external audience, but also within the work environment that it's being used. Does it fit within that work environment? Can it be worn with all the other equipment necessary to perform that job? Because ultimately, if you can only demonstrate the use case in a very controlled setting or ecosystem, that's going to hold you back in later cycles of broader pilots and eventual rollout. You can go to the next slide. Next one is really understanding that this device is not a standalone entity, but it's something that's part of a larger ecosystem, and one that is largely set prior to the implementation of any AR activity. So you've really got to look hard and select devices, select systems, select software that's going to integrate with those existing tools and systems that you've got within your organization. Can it tie into your ERP or MRP systems? Do you have existing talent in-house that can develop or create content for the device, or is there talent portability across both development and design resources that you currently employ? If you have to create a new function or a new department just to deploy AR, it's going to be a huge hindrance or a huge friction point from a rollout or a change management standpoint. Also, can data flow in a live mode to and from the device as it's captured by the new sensors that you're bringing to bear on the environment from the device, and can it leverage the data that's already sort of latent in the ecosystem, but where AR, one of the major benefits is bringing that to the point of use and cutting down the cycle time between going back to a shop office to check out the data feeds and then go back to the piece of equipment and lose travel time and potentially have issues continue or downtime continue in the process. And a big part of that is connectivity. Can it be integrated with the existing IT ecosystem of the enterprise or the facility in question? Because if it can't and it's having to run dark, you may cut off the capabilities at the knees of what would otherwise be a tremendously impactful device. You can go to the next one. Next up, and absolutely a top-of-mind factor for anybody who has piloted AR devices in the past or evaluated a broad range of devices, battery. Will this device have the power management necessary and the power capacity necessary to run through not only demonstration activities or pilot or prototype activities, but actually make it into use? If it's something that by 11 o'clock in the morning is dead on your head, it's certainly not going to stand the muster necessary for full integration or full rollout. And since the reliability of that tool and the trust that creates with the end user is so critical and so fragile, it's something that really needs to be a focus in terms of device selection. You can go to the next one. And finally, the last one, and this is certainly one that is easy to overlook in the early pilot and test phases, when you're focused on a single use case or a single kind of cross section of activity. But the goal of any device needs to be to last the entire shift, or at the very least the entire operation in question, so that people aren't having to worry about switching out devices or switching out batteries in the middle of critical business processes, because for a device that's trying to save time, that would certainly add time and potentially waste into that work stream. In addition, wearability and comfort is a big factor here as well. Is it something that's comfortable enough to wear for an entire shift, or even just a few hours at a stretch in between breaks? Because if it's not, people are going to find every reason to not adopt that device, even if the hardware and the software and the experience are perfect. If it's something that's uncomfortable, people just won't put up with that for very long. And the other big burden for getting to the entire shift is really content. So, for some of the most successful pilots that we've seen and been a part of, one of the classic questions that the worker asks is, okay, that was great, but now what do I do for the other 11 hours and 45 minutes of my shift? So making sure that the content portability there, that you've got an authoring backend available and selected that will allow you to either bring existing content into this AR ecosystem, or to easily edit or update that content for support within this particular deployment. In addition, as you move from pilot to rollout, it's important to think about whether or not this device is going to be kept with one person, or if it's going to move between multiple individuals performing similar operations throughout the course of one shift or across multiple shifts. There are a lot of kind of latent human factors issues that come with that, in terms of people sharing devices, keeping them clean and calibrated and fit to individual needs. So looking for devices that are going to be able to have that transferability and are going to be able to be in active duty for as much of every 24-hour cycle as possible is really critical. And ultimately, all of these things add up to whether or not the worker wants to wear this device. And you want to create something that is so transformational and gives such a big increase in capability to people that they want to wear it not only all day that first day, but that they come back again and again wanting to wear that device every single day. So that's where I'll leave it for now and turn it over to Christine for the next presenter.
Thank you, Matt. Raising some great points. Okay, Thomas, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Thomas Perper. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director of Jota. We're a French-based AR company that provides a solution called the Jota Player that, in connection to the PLM, is going to enable our industrial clients to create and manage AR projects. If we can go on to the next slide, please. So basically, these are the sectors that today we have experience in, and that I would like to give quickly my view on. So we work with aeronautics, automotive, naval, railway, and energy companies. And really, more generally, where we found out that augmented reality has an interest in terms of return on investment for the people using it, is when humans needs complexity. So whenever there's going to be a task that is complex, not easy to do, not always the same, and that a human has to do it, then in that case, potentially, augmented reality is going to be an interesting technology to look at. From our experience, in those industries, production and assembly is going to be a fairly big topic. And so I've tried, I'm going to try to link those to the device afterwards, but production and assembly is definitely a topic where today, from our experience again, we see people using augmented reality past the proof of concept stage and directly into more of a broader deployment being used on a daily basis. Maintenance and control is also a topic where augmented reality is interesting to look at, and certainly training. So I'm going to move on to the next slide and give our view on the Quickly, the devices. So our solution can be integrated. Various devices can be integrated with our solution. So we have a little bit of experience with each of those. So I'll take them one by one. The first one is obviously the tablet. So the tablet today, in terms of interaction, performance of the tablet, and the augmented reality solution itself, in terms of tracking and the rendering of the virtual elements, today is suitable for an AR experience. So today, with the tablet, we passed the proof of concept stage. People start using it regularly for mainly control and assembly support. The huge problem with hands-free is whenever you're going to be in a production environment, and that's what Christine was giving as an introduction, it's the handheld versus hands-free. And obviously the tablet is a big issue, especially in a production setting, because your hands are not going to be free. So this is not going to be a suitable device for a lot of use cases that are relevant today in the industry. So how do we go about this? Today, there are two different devices that are available that gives a hands-free experience. The first one being the glasses. So obviously, the pros for this is the hands-free and mobile device. This is a really hot topic at the moment. Everybody's talking about it. You know, there's quite a bit of noise about the HoloLens and quite a few other manufacturers are putting themselves on this market. This is advancing really rapidly. But, and I'm really talking about optical see-through here. I'm not talking about video see-through or contextual information such as the Google glasses, but for optical see-through, from our experience, the problems that we saw for wider acceptance of this solution is the ergonomy of the glasses themselves, although we see quite a bit of improvement in that area. The latency in terms of the overlay of the virtual elements into the real world. What we noticed is that there is quite a bit of latency, usually 100 to 150 milliseconds, again, from our experience, that gives the user a little bit of a floating sensation of the elements that can be disturbing when using the system for an extended period of time. The interaction as well with the device itself can be a little bit tricky. We'd be talking about hand gestures and this kind of thing, so that needs to be integrated as well. But the interaction can be a little bit more problematic than what it would be with a tablet. And the final point for wider acceptance of the glasses is also the acceptance by the people using the glasses themselves, who today are a little bit reluctant using just security glasses. So when we're talking about this type of head-mounted displays, we've noticed that this was a little bit difficult in terms of acceptance because of the ergonomy and the latency primarily. So there is a lot of improvement. A lot of people are going in the right direction, and our colleagues from DACRI are certainly doing quite a lot of groundwork on this. The system that possibly for hands-free experience is suitable, but that has limitation as well, is going to be the projection device. So on your slide, Christine, actually I have a slightly different view. The projection device might be a little more advanced in terms of readiness level. At the moment, you had it in a slightly faded on your slide. Today, actually, for production, especially in the aeronautics industry, the naval and the railway as well, for assembling objects, knowing that the hands-free is a requirement, that just has to, the device used has to give you the ability to be hands-free. The projection device is suitable. And we've seen this again because we're past the proof of concept stage with some of our clients. So obviously hands-free is a good thing. The fact that with augmented reality it can be a mobile device, so it can be moved around, it is also a good thing. The acceptance is actually quite high on this because people really see it as something that can complement their work nicely, and this is not cumbersome for them. This is just kind of there and helping them. So the acceptance level, again from our experience, but is quite high for this. The problems that we have, because there are some obviously, is going to be a precision problem. The elements are usually displayed, and this is something that is going to improve, but 2 to 3 millimeter with a 2 to 3 millimeter accuracy. And again, the interaction is going to be a bit of an issue. How do you interact with the system? You have to go back to the projection system each time, or can you have a device, maybe some type of a smartwatch or something that you could work with? So the interaction is still for the projection system a bit of an issue.
Thank you.
So,
oh, I'm sorry.
Roughly, that was that was roughly what I wanted to present. So thank you.
Okay, great. So finally, I'd like to invite Jim Donnelly to share with us what 615 Technologies is doing in terms of these new devices. Jim?
Thank you, Christine, and thank you everybody for joining this morning. I'm going to start off and I'll give you a brief introduction of 615. We started in 2012. A private equity firm came in and acquired the non-consumer assets of Vuzix and formed 615 to focus on the military and enterprise markets for augmented and virtual reality. Our team is made up of some of the most experienced engineers in the wearable and augmented reality markets, and that experience has led us to design and produce over 200,000 devices for our DoD, special operations, and dozens of Fortune 500 companies. Could you advance to the next slide? So the biggest challenge that we see to choosing a device for the augmented reality space is that there's no one right device. The one-size-fits-all approach works very well for a consumer-facing AR or VR product, but that approach is flawed when you try to address the enterprise market. The right device for the enterprise customer needs to be optimized and customized to meet those specific requirements of the use cases for each individual customer. Could you advance the slide, please? Okay. So our process in defining what those optimization and customization pieces are for the customer is a little bit different than most in the augmented reality world. Assuming that the customer has their use case defined, has a defined budget for their augmented reality effort, we can sit with them to determine what trade-offs are required to make the device work as best as possible for their use case. One recent example is we had a customer that did not require a camera. They were doing data snacking or task work that just did not have a need for a camera. Picking a device that's not focused on that specific need meant that the customer had to make trade-offs in functionality that they couldn't accept. In this example, having a camera meant added weight on the physical device, increased power consumption, and adding to the high cost of the unit. We were able to work with them to figure out what pieces could also be removed from that device, the camera, some electronics, and battery trade-offs. And what that does is it reduces the weight significantly, allows for a much more streamlined form factor, and increased battery life by 30%. So these customizations allowed the device to seamlessly integrate into the back end of their ERP system and deploy to the field with lower procurement integration costs compared to a one-size-fits-most solution. Next slide, please.
I'm having a little trouble advancing. Sorry about that. Not sure why.
No problem.
Okay, there we go.
So, the most important question that everybody falls back on is there a cost benefit to choosing an optimized hardware solution? Most people will hear customized, optimized, and automatically assume increased cost. That is typically completely opposite, and a customized solution has a much lower cost. For customers who choose that route, they see the cost reduce on not only the physical hardware, but the integration and the maintenance of the devices and the software platforms over the life of the product. And in closing, I just want to say that 615 feels there's a need for a paradigm shift in the process that's currently used to select AR devices in order to move from the pilot phases to much more scalable solutions for the enterprise market, and to include not only the larger companies but smaller companies who are in need of the augmented reality solutions to optimize their return on investment and also increase productivity. And our process provides a path for any of these customers to make that shift in their way of thinking.
Okay, really interesting points, Jim. Thank you very much. So I'd like to go ahead and we've heard from our panelists. Each one kind of offered some of their own recommendations as far as best practices. And so in the interest of moving us along a little bit further, I'm going to assume that we have covered this question about the best process quite well. And I'm going to recommend that we go on and talk about another question. And that to some extent, you've all addressed this a little bit, but I'd like more discussion about collaboration between the customers and the developers, those who have software or hardware to bring. How is that collaboration going? I mean, I want honesty here. I'm not looking for platitudes. So, is there a tendency for the developer to choose the device, or is it the customer that's always right? So, Jim, I'm going to go ahead and, it's kind of a giveaway for you, but what do you think? Are there a lot of people in the chain of decision that make these decisions more difficult? How do you collaborate when there's so many different actors? Jim, are you with us? Okay. Am I still online? Matt?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay. I didn't hear. So Matt, maybe you could give me your insights. What do you
Yep.
think when I couldn't hear Jim, so
Yeah, no problem. I would say, as it stands today, there's not nearly enough collaboration between developers and providers and project managers within the enterprise. And I think that whole complicated ecosystem, the fact that there are even 2 or 3 steps in it, creates that. I think the developers and the providers bring a wealth of experience since they've been doing many of these deployments across many different types of organizations, but they don't always come in with the knowledge of the specific kind of quirks and needs of a given enterprise. And every organization is different, and the cultural side of acceptance is such a huge factor. So early on, having sort of a best practices session or a knowledge sharing between all of those different players, and taking into account things that have been released or created or have just recently become available since that experience was captured in the first place is another thing to discuss in that session. But it's certainly something I would advise, and those questions way too often get skipped in the interest of getting to deployment quickly.
right. Rhonda, how do you feel? You feel that are you in the driver's seat or are you in the passenger seat on your device selection?
I think that I'm in the driver's seat. However, I do look to the provider to help me because I don't know what I don't know. So while so I feel that I'm more of an expert on knowing my customer and knowing their environment. I feel like the provider should be helping me along, knowing more about the technology and maybe issues. So I do view it as it needs to be more of a collaboration we're experts in different areas, and I need to explain to them our customer requirements and needs in their environment. They need to explain to me the technology and how the product will meet those requirements or can't. Just like I had the vision that, oh, we can just use the people's smartphones, and I was told by several different people that's a bad idea. So, that's helpful to me.
Okay, good. I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'm going to go on to the next question because we're a little bit short on time, but I'm going to ask Thomas, what do you think about these important issues that this diversity of solutions that you talked about, Jim has talked about devices with and without cameras, different kinds of sensors. Do you think it's possible to have like a corporate standard or not? What's your position on this, Thomas?
Yeah, I have a slightly different view than Jim on that issue. I think from our perspective, having one kind of standard device is something that is doable. If I just look at, for instance, the projection system that we offer at Giota, there is only one projection system. Actually, there could be a second one depending on indoor versus outdoor condition and the lighting condition, but they're going to be roughly exactly the same. Having said this, there are ways to investigate if you wanted to increase the precision, to have higher resolution cameras, better projection devices for the rendering. But if you're looking at some use cases, and I'll take one for instance, assembly in the aeronautics, for some of the tasks, having one device is going to be suitable, with a precision of about 3 millimeter, with the rendering that we get from the projection device, we can already address a lot of use cases. So there's not necessarily a need to customize each of the devices depending on each of the use cases. From our experience, for the projection, one device can kind of fit it all. For the tablet, we have only one device as well, and it can kind of fit at least a lot of different use cases, at least in the industry sector, maybe slightly different for the customer segment. As far as the glasses is concerned, we could think as well that if there was one device where the latency would be okay, where the battery life would be okay, and where the ergonomy of the device would be appropriate, then in that case, that device is going to start gaining a lot of market share and not necessarily have to be customized depending on each of the use cases. So a long answer to say that to some extent, yes, kind of a one device in each of the three areas, tablets, projection, and glasses, can kind of fit at least a lot of different use cases. After, if your use case is radically different and needs some type of optimization, then that's something that's doable. But yeah, one device can be suitable.
Yeah. I got the impression, Rhonda, that a diversity of devices is going to be a fact of life for you because you can't dictate which devices your customers buy. It'll always be very heterogeneous. Do you agree?
Yes, and I think it depends on what model we go with. If we want to offer and distribute the viewing device to our customers, or if we ask them to just, have a viewing device that meets a certain requirement. But yeah, if we definitely for the latter, it will be up to them.
Exactly. Okay. Good. Good to know. So I guess I'd like to go a little bit further. This question is about sort of, those, you guys are all in the early adopter camp. You've just, had so many experiences. You've seen it before. So do you think that the questions or the lessons you've learned now will be applicable in 6 months or a year from now? And do these lessons transfer from market to market? Like, can Rhonda's lessons and her experience really be applied to another, like healthcare, for example? Matt, what's your thought? You've been watching this as we all have. What are your opinions there?
I think the program plan stays largely consistent, and that greasing the skids as far as getting the organization used to that program plan. So starting with a proof of value, moving to a cross-sectional pilot, and then identifying opportunities for rollout. That cycle we're going to see repeated over and over. And in an ideal world, it'll get faster and faster, so that as we identify these use cases or opportunities to capture value, we're able to move on those and capitalize on them quickly. I think, also it's important to remember that people are people, and the things that they struggle with or that they enjoy about a given user experience or a given, device characteristic is going to carry over, even though that actual device, is certainly going to change generation to generation or across different markets.
Right. Jim, are you back with us?
I am.
Oh, good.
I agree with Matt, and I think the pilots that have been run over the past 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, wherever it is today, have created a huge knowledge base for device manufacturers and customers to draw on. And the lessons learned in those pilots are going to help customers deploy and field these solutions that are going to work for their systems. Those were instrumental in getting us to where we're at today, and I think they're going to play a huge role in what happens over the next 6, 12, and 18 months.
So there's a question from the audience that I'd like to ask you, Jim. As you see a lot of components pass through your across your desk, so to speak, across your lap, and we all do. But as you see the sensing technology, like depth sensing, for example, and others, technologies evolving, is that going to accelerate the display diversity? Is that a factor, or is everybody going to have depth sensing in X number of months or years? Is the sensing technology going to drive the display, or is that independent?
I think it's going to have some impact. Going back to one of your slides earlier in the presentation, where you have two very different use cases, one where you're presenting data and one where you're doing more tracked in registered augmented reality. So depending on that use case, if the depth sensing is required for some of the tracking and registering of the augmented reality objects, I think it'll have a huge impact on the display devices themselves. But in the other cases where we're just talking about data or instruction or peer-to-peer interaction, probably will not have as big of an impact.
Okay. Well, I know we're just getting to the end of the hour here. I wonder if anyone wants to. This is not a prepared question, so what do you predict is going to happen in the next 6 months when we see more and more of these, like the Dacry smart helmets going to be shipping, and we already know there's more and more people who have more devices. Are we going to see the prices drop significantly, or are we going to stay in a very developer-oriented for device, at least for device innovation, are we going to stay very focused on developers, do you think? Or are we?
I would say,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say from our perspective, you'll see a lot of both. So certainly, as components get cheaper, as these integrations get more well-worn in terms of higher volume production, all of those things are positive trends from a price perspective. But what our guess is that you're going to see a lot of stratification. So you're always going to have a new kind of high-end premium device, that maybe sits mostly with developers or high-impact experts within industry, and then beneath that, you'll see professional class devices, you'll see consumer class devices that really are inheriting from the volumes and the price pressure created by that high end or those premium devices.
Right. Well, this comes back to Rhonda a little bit too, is that, you had your phased approach and there's kind of this assumption that smart glasses is one thing, but what we're hearing from others, and you realize as well, is that's going to be a moving target, isn't it? So
Yes.
yeah, as you continue to try to get to that goal of smart glasses, isn't that goal going to constantly be, the goal post is going to move out further and further and further?
Yeah. So we have, a plan B, and it may be different for different customer of our customers also of, as far as affordability or um, what their demands are. Some customers may want to be an earlier adopter and may have the funds, and others may not. So I think all throughout this we have to um, you know, also depend on tablets.
Right. So there'll always be kind of a fallback plan B. I like that. Well, thank you very much, members and experts, for sharing with us your thoughts and your experience on the subject of device selection. I really appreciate these insights, and I know that this has been a very popular webinar, and I look forward to many more. So thank you, and that ends today's webinar for the area.